What's up? Now, this is what we're going to talk about in English. Я не смогу быстро, потому что переводить тяжело. May I'll try a little bit. So this is what we were talking about. We were speaking about fidelity, about having, like several women called, there was one woman who just called it, she was very open, she was exposing parts of her body, very nicely. In any case, see, me and Ray were talking about the marriage as we know it, the construction of marriage. Then I asked her about this thing called MPI. People who don't fancy reading literature about marriage and history of evolutionary biology. There's a science, genetics, evolutionary biology, anthropology, all that, those are beautiful things to read about. There's books I can tell you. It's fascinating. Let me get a piece of chocolate. So my question is, when I ask you, Ray, how do you feel about our conventional marriage? How do you feel about it?
I feel good about it. I'm open.
Open. Do you feel that as a construct, as a paradigm, as a institution, they call it institution of marriage. In other words, the actual marriage, do you think it's a reliable way of being, in a way of finding a man who will be faithful to you till he's dead? From 30 to 100, you and him. Yeah, you see she's laughing. Why? And you too.
I think that's
70, only 70
practical.
years. Well, see, a lady says that. What do you mean?
There's too many people in the world.
Just this world alone. Huh?
For two people to be sexually committed to each other for the rest of their lives.
Do you imagine him to be, for example, loyal to you in all other ways,
yes,
but be open-minded and have other lovers?
Yes, you can still be loyal to someone and have other loyalty.
Or he can be faithful and then one day leave you.
That too.
What kind of loyalty is that? Or he can be having lovers and leave you.
And not tell you.
Or he can have lovers and lie, which is, I heard, pretty common. Way more common than men being like me, open. Like we've been open, right?
Yes.
You invited another guy, Ray invited another guy tomorrow to come and have dinner with us. Is that normal? I spoke to him. Seems all right. But I don't see, he never called her all day. That's not right. My point I was going to make is, we think that this marriage that we have is how we've been forever as a human race. Now, it depends what you believe. If you believe the Bible and the ribs and the dust and the Adam and Eve, whatever, and the talking snakes, that's okay for you. But that doesn't sound too realistic to me. Talking snakes. Have you ever seen a talking snake?
Never.
They don't talk. I don't see an animal talking at all. This is human thing that we do talk. Neanderthals, by some evidence, and it's tough because we assume, people don't insist on that being true, but there's a theory that what separated us from Neanderthals is that we were talking, and they could not talk. 100,000 years ago, 50,000 we started talking, saying a lot of shit, communicating, coming up with ideas of God. Osho said, we don't know, or we should ask ourselves, who created who? God created us, or we created God? Osho said that, not me. He stole my idea though, but that's okay. So what we were discussing was the fact that before agriculture, this is a very important thing to remember. And people don't think about that. There's a book it's called Sapiens. Harari.
These are facts.
I mean, these are, I call them theory. The reason I like them is because they don't threaten. If you don't believe it, I'm not threatening you that you're gonna burn in hell. If people write to me, you're gonna die impotent, you're gonna be cursed. No, you will be loved. I love you. So the theory goes, could be wrong, that before agriculture, 12,000 years ago, we lived in a different society, such as the marriage as we know it. Monogamous marriage. Although, you know, they call us, scientifically, we are serial monogamy. They call it serial monogamy. Серийные моногамные люди. Serial means we get married for 5-10 years, divorce, and get married again. So we are serially monogamous.
Okay.
We change our partners, but every so often. But we try to be monogamous for the period of time when we are in a marriage. Then we divorce. A lot of people divorce. Half the people divorce. And then they marry again and they stay monogamous. It's more cohesive, more organized that way. Organized. So the point is, before agriculture, paternity, fatherhood was not an issue. So I don't know if I ever said this to express my feelings about this. It's in a lot of books. People lived in what they call an orgiastic society. There are still tribes that live that way. And I'm not saying to live that way, I'm just saying to be open-minded and see why humans gravitate towards that. And that's why when you see pornography, a lot of men and women like more than two people. It's our nature, because that's how we used to, we have people that still live that way. As a society of tribal, there's a society by Lake Oomo, I think, in China, in southern China. That's just a separate society that China tries to mess with and tell them, hey, stop doing this, because they're living in a tribal, orgiastic way. A woman has several husbands, well, they don't call them husbands, there's just several men, and each man has several women. So they all make love to each other. There is not a point, they don't even know what the point of a father doesn't really exist like we understand it, because they don't know who the father is. And it doesn't matter, because they all help each other, you see. And if, let's say, for example, me and Ray were living in that society, we'd have another man or two and another woman or two. If something happens to me, if a tiger eats me, or I get sick and die or get injured, my brothers, or whatever you call these other men, I don't know how you call them, we don't have a word for that, my fellow husbands of my women would help me and help raise children that I can't even say they're mine, they're ours. Our children will never be without a father like mine. They'll always have several fathers, getting lessons of life, getting tutelage, getting education, life education from several men who wish them well, because they're our children.
Everyone shares a responsibility in the village.
Exactly. I'm considering maybe we should start something like that. Right here. Experiment. We will be outlawed and thrown out. But it's something, at least a wishful, just a consideration. The point I'm trying to make is this thing called MPI. I was saying that to Ray. Male paternal investment. You could look it up, Google it. MPI. There's an MPI and there's a, I guess, FPI, female paternal. Although I've never read about that one, because females make babies and they know it's their babies because they come out of them.
Yes.
We have jokes. We have a joke in Russian. 3 stages of drunkenness. The Russian humor. First stage, первая стадия опьянения. A guy calls his wife, say, hey, baby, I'm still with her, but I'm coming home. It's the first stage of, я говорю, ты что с ним, я домой иду. He's drunk. Second stage, вторая стадия. He knocks on the door of his own apartment. Wife opens at 3 in the morning. He's with the lover and whispers to the wife, say, hey, can you tell her you're my sister? Скажи, что моя сестра. The third stage, and the last one, is when they're laying with the wife and he tells her, honey, I never want to tell you this, but our last kid is not yours. Наш последний ребенок не от тебя. It's crazy.
Yeah.
The point is, men don't ever know who our baby is. If it's our baby or not. All these tests, they're recent. So that our investment, paternal investment, is very flimsy at best. Because we don't know if it's our baby or not. And women don't even know. If they have two partners, how do you know? Unless one is white, one is black. But if they're similar looking, you don't know. That's why it's not good for women in this society to sleep around. Because then who's the daddy? We don't have that. I always tell, it's not the same for men and women to have extra, to have polygamy. Because if I have 1,000 women and they're exclusive with me, I'll have 1,000 kids potentially, like Genghis Khan. And paternity will be known. But if you only have 2, forget 1,000. You will never know. It's different. So biologically, we are programmed different. That's why women don't sleep around as much as men. That's one reason. Especially now that we're not living in an orgiastic society. But it's complicated. What I'm trying to tell you is, men and women. Men are very sensitive. Очень чувствительные мужчины к ихнему investment, with the investment. Because, first of all, we don't know if it's ours. That's why we're very, very sensitive about our women sleeping around. We don't like that. Because we don't know who daddy will be. Then we have to invest in the baby who may not be ours. I thought the thing is, and that happens. Now, second problem is when a woman starts telling, oh, I'm going to leave you. First, we don't know if it's our baby. Now, whoever the baby is, now there's a threat. Угроза, что его заберут. Some crazy men start hitting women, and that's horrible. So I tell, please, women, don't threaten men. Like I always say, my mom does that. Oh, I'll hang up on you. That's a small threat of leaving. Don't ever threaten men. If you don't like your man, sit down, have a nice talk with him, and say, listen, I'm uncomfortable being like this. But don't ever keep saying, like my mom, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to leave you all her life. My ex, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to divorce. Every argument, I'm divorcing. Used to stress me out. Gray hair. I used to go file with the city hall. And she used to file every half a year. She used to give me a divorce. Like three times she filed. Just to mess with me. Well, there we go, we divorced. She got her wish. Don't do it. If you want to get divorced, have a nice conversation, not angry. Think it through. Shouldn't be emotionally driven or charged. Это серьезные вопросы, блин. А мужику это очень больно, что у него забирают. You take from a man his investment. Because look at me, my kids are gone. My investment is gone. Imagine how I feel. My genes are doing a living with a woman, people make fun of this, who is messing around with this guy who doesn't even live with them. Or does that, I ask them, they don't tell me. To me, that's hurtful because I want my kids to see this. We're together. Tomorrow, if Ray meets another man, she'll come and tell me, and if I meet someone, things happen. And if we don't, we'll be together. Imagine me and you, 80 years old. Well, you'll be 80, I'll be 102. Paddling, talking about BMIs. In any case, what do we learn? We learn to love each other. If you want to have a little orgy, you gotta ask your rabbi. Ask your priest, invite him. You got these things going on over here. So there's a little bit of humor in that, obviously, but be honest, be respectful, have a little chocolate, and be good people. And we will say this to ourselves as well. We respect each other. I'll give a kiss to my beautiful lady.
Thank you.
And that's it. See how simple? Kiss each other, hug each other, and that's it. And tomorrow we're going to sing you a song. Have a good night.